to the college student. Meow, 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 meow. Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Thank you guys for joining again for another week. So if you guys have not checked it out yet, make sure you guys go check out the previous podcast, which is relating to music, which was really cool. We talked about some key concepts of music, but we also talked as college students. As you guys know, we are college kids, clearly. We talked about music and what we prefer in music, and we talked about a little bit of Drake and the whole Travis Scott theory and everything else. So make sure you guys go back and rewatch that or listen to it. The video form does come out every Friday at 5 p.m. and the audio, just like this, comes out every Tuesday at 12 o'clock in the day, so 12 p.m. So make sure you guys are going and listening to that and having a grand old time. So with that being said, I know you guys are wondering, what is today's topics? And today's topics is, drumroll please. So we're actually talking about internet and social media. So in case you guys aren't aware, we are in the 21st century, so these two things are really big and really huge and constantly evolving. So actually, these two things, social media and the internet, are two huge outlets that are constantly evolving and literally changing every day. I swear, you go into Instagram every day and something changes. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you if it's the way it looks, but something changes every day on Instagram. And I'm telling you, be aware. Okay, I'm just saying. So I'm gonna hit you guys with a question, and that question is what type of media are you consuming through not only the internet, but through social media as well? For me, I definitely started out with a wonky, maybe some things I probably should not have really been consuming that were very negative. But I was able to change that by trying to develop a better way to look at my Instagram, by liking certain posts, by following certain people, to help make my feed on Instagram seem so much better than compared to what it was months ago. I'm not sitting there comparing myself to Kim Kardashian. I'm comparing myself to the nice little quotes that I see every day on my Instagram feed, which is actually very lovely. Thank you. So to start this out with, here's a really good concept when it comes to not just social media, but also the internet, and that is fake news. Actually, fake news is everywhere, in case you're not aware, including Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, different news sources. All of these things consist of fake news, which blows my mind because these are certain social media platforms that we use on a daily basis, and yet this is what we are conforming ourselves with, and this is what we're consuming. So back a few years ago, Starbucks was actually falsely accused of refusing to provide coffee to Marines serving in Iraq. And when you look in chapter 10, which is a book that we read based off of this section of our podcast, it actually describes fake news as inaccurate news stories designed to deceive and spread online. And another prime example of fake news would be back in the 2016 American election. Facebook's users were 2.5 more times likely to have read fake political news than news from journalism sites who have a great reputation, like CNN, or if you're local in North Carolina, like WRAL. And, fake news is not news that you don't like or disagree with, but it is an intentional, presumptuous attempt to debate public discourse and thwart the public's will. Fake news is everywhere, literally. If you go onto a news story and you see a 2012 Facebook message on a recent story, I'm just saying it's a hint. So we actually reached out to Professor Michael Lynch, and we asked him to describe fake news to us, and he said, and I quote, "There are an alarming number of people who tend to be credulous and form beliefs based on the latest thing that they've read, but that's not the wider problem. The wider problem is fake news has the effect of getting people not to believe real things," which is something I 100% agree with. The next concept we have is Something that is a huge issue with another freedom of expression and what takes on a special nature on the internet, and that's specifically copyright. Now, we could go on forever about copyright, but I also know that you guys have a life, so we're not going to go into depth with it. But basically, copyright protection is designed to ensure that those who create content are financially compensated for their work. So, more like the assumption is that more quote unquote authors will create more content if assured of monetary compensation for those who use it. Now, we can talk all day long, like I said, about copyright, but I know you have a life and I know we have certain things that we have to go over. But in order to deal with these thorny issues, in 1998, the US Congress passed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This primarily goal was to bring the U.S. copyright law into compliance with that of the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO, if that's a cool name for it, if you want to go for it. It's actually headquartered in Switzerland, which is really cool. But it basically makes crime to circumvent and anti-piracy measures that are built in commercial software. It basically creates permits of breaking of copyright protection devices to conduct research and to test computer security safety systems. And the state explicitly that fair use insists that which copyrighted material may be used without permission or payment, such as taking brief quotes from a book, or that applies to the internet. Again, copyright is something that we can go on for days, but we should probably move on to the next topic, which is something that we can talk about literally all day long, and that is privacy. There's actually been a huge issue of privacy within the mass communication field, basically. So traditionally, it's been concerned with individual rights to protect their privacy from invasion and intrusive media. So my example, I'm actually going to put it in the form of a question, and hopefully as I get further into this, you can come up with your answer, and I'll get you thinking a little bit. But should newspapers publish the names of rape survivors and juvenile offenders? So that being said, there are actually two different types of privacy concerns. First being protecting the privacy of communication we wish to keep private, and second, the use and misuse of private personal information willingly given online. Possibly like being able to search someone's house address and seeing where they're able to live. So actually back in 1986, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act guarantees the privacy of their email. And the main goal of this was to protect citizens from official abuse, and it gives email quote-unquote conversations the same protection that phone conversations enjoy. If a government agency wants to listen in, it must secure permission, just as it must get a court order for a telephone wiretap, which is very interesting. So I can't really go into detail with both of them because I know you guys have a life too, just as I do. So I'm going to dive into the protecting privacy of personal information, because everything online leaves actually a digital trail. So when you go on Amazon and you go buy something without telling your husband, it's left there. Okay, you can go to your order history and it's there, right? So making this possible easy data resilience, or a massive collection of distillation of consumer data. It's distributing and sharing personal private information among organizations other than the one from whom it was originally intended. So aka all those little pop-up ads you've been seeing, they know why you've been, they know you've been Googling it, okay? You're not slick. So a huge thing, you have opt-in and opt-out, which is a great example of these different types of basically taps or distributing of sharing personal information and private information. Opt-out is the object to the idea that websites should provide us the security only if we specifically ask for it. And with opt-out, you have opt-in, which are sites asking to have to get our permission before collecting and disseminate our personal data. But besides those two, there are actually many more forms, like cookies. And no, not the ones you put out for Santa and you put with milk, and maybe a few carrots for Rudolph. No, that's not cookies. But encryption, radio frequency identification chip, or RFID, Internet of Things, IoT, or Clickstream Inspire. Again, we could go on about privacy all day long, but I also know you guys have a life. So with that being said, guys, that is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys were able to learn a little bit about the internet and social media and some light technical things, and maybe some things that you see pop up whenever you do go on a certain website, or something that may pop up when you go on Webkinz. I'm sorry. That was the first website that came to mind, so I had to say it. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys have a great day today. Thank you for tuning into The College Student. And make sure you guys tune in on Friday at 5 p.m. to watch our video version. We are so excited to be able to put this out for you guys. It's been a long ride. We're literally on season 3, but we got this. We'll keep it together. But I hope you guys have a great day today. And yeah, that's the end of today's podcast. Make sure you guys tune in for Friday. Bye.